All right. So hey, thanks everybody. Welcome. It is just about 9:30. We're gonna give it a few more minutes here before we get started. Usually people start rolling in right at 9:30 or a couple minutes after. We're also gonna have somebody hop on. We have an old Google Hangouts link that we used to use for this, and sometimes people show up there. So I'm just gonna send a reminder to Kit to do that. Let's see, I'll put it on our staff actually.
Hi, everyone. Hi,
Hello.
Diane. Hi, Patricia. It's Alana. Hi,
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Welcome everyone.
Yes.
We'll get started with some housekeeping stuff here in a few minutes. We'll just give people usually roll in here right at 9:30 or even a little bit after. So we'll give people a couple minutes to hop on and we'll get right into our presentations here. So welcome everyone. Sit tight and we'll get started here in a couple.
Are we recording this, Adam?
We are indeed.
Okay, so it'll be available for people to listen
Yep.
later, right?
Yep, all of our Friday briefings are available on our website, wiveteranschamber.org. So it should be on like today or tomorrow for everybody
Okay.
to follow up if they want to check their notes or share with their friends or any of that sort of stuff.
I see a few names I know here. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. This platform is really great. We're a fan of GoToMeeting. We were using Google Hangouts before, and it just didn't quite get us to where we needed to be, and we find this to be a better platform. So we'll probably dive in here and get started here. We've got another chat message here. I'll check really quick. I will email you when the video's up. There you go. All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Adam with the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to our Friday COVID-19 resource and information briefing. A lot of you have been on these calls before, so you know how they go. But for those of you that are new to us, welcome. We do these briefings every Friday, and you can use the same link. Same time, same place, at least through the beginning of June. For those of you that are business owners and like corporate representatives, we do have one sponsorship spot available for our COVID briefings. So if you are interested in having your business co-brand with us, like the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber and blank organization presents, then you just let me know. We're opening up one sponsorship spot, and it's because of the huge impact that we've had. We've had anywhere between, it looks like we got a light attendance today, and it'll probably pick up here a little bit. They usually do between 9:30 and 9:40, but we've had as many as 75 on a call, and the marketing before and after is pretty significant. So looking for some visibility, that sponsorship opportunity is great. A couple housekeeping items. We are nearing the end of our United COVID Relief Fund fundraiser. We did hit our goal. We've surpassed. We had a $10,000 match, and from an anonymous donor that we were hoping to get to. We ended up getting to 11 some odd thousand, and so we're going to be able to give over $20,000 directly to Wisconsin-based veteran-serving nonprofit organizations. So thanks to everybody that's donated. If you haven't donated yet, we still have an opportunity to pile all that on. I'm going to throw in the chat right here this link. That is, we're doing in conjunction with Lift for the 22. So it's a Lift for the 22 website. So if you click the link, every little bit counts. It looks like we're at the bar says $6,370. You got to add $5,000 from Watertown Bank and another $10,000 $10,000 for the match. So yeah, add $15,000 to that number, and that's what we got right now. So pretty exciting stuff for that. Another event I want to bring to everybody's attention. We've been doing a masterclass series. Last week we started with a LinkedIn masterclass that was well attended and people were pretty excited about it. We got another masterclass coming up. Our resident Twitter expert's going to be showing people how to, if you're a Twitter novice like me and you don't know anything about Twitter like me, I'm going to take the class. If you want to learn about how to build a massive following and actually leverage it for your business and for your brand, I would strongly suggest taking this. It's $15 for members, $25 for non-members, which is an absolute steal to get firsthand information from Randy, who has a massive Twitter following and knows how to do it the right way. Another event I would love to bring to your attention, and then we'll move on, is we're doing a morning formation webinar. It's an informational webinar on business development in a post-COVID-19 world, and we're going to talk about marketing communications and sales in a post-COVID-19 world. And we have three experts there. Shane Krengle is the CEO of Margle Media. Wayne Breitbarth is the CEO of Power Formula for LinkedIn Success. And Elmer Moore is the CEO of Scale It Milwaukee and Milwaukee Denim. And all three of them are going to be on the call on the panel showing you how to communicate, market, and develop your business in a post-COVID-19 world. There's three absolute stone cold experts. It's going to be a huge value add. So sign up for that today. And again, that's $25 for non-members, $15 for members, which is an absolute steal. And I'll throw the link over there. If you have questions throughout the span of this briefing, please throw them in the chat. If you're calling in and not videoing in and don't have the ability to add to our chat, we'll have an opportunity for you to unmute here at the end and ask your questions. Our first presenters today is Patricia and Diane from Healing Warrior Hearts. They're going to be talking about health and mental health resources during this time. So for you personally, for your employees, for your colleagues, this is going to be really important information. And then we're going to transition into hearing from Chris Kolenda, who's going to be talking about sustaining high performance during lockdown. And then after each section, we'll have a Q&A. So like I said, go throw your questions in the chat as they come, and any links or anything, and I'll just keep moderating as we go. But I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Patricia and Diane here from Healing Warrior Hearts and let them take it from here. Welcome, you two.
Thank you, Adam. We're really glad to be here and appreciate the opportunity to be able to share with people about mental health resources and the importance of creating post-traumatic growth instead of more post-traumatic stress during this COVID time. We've been asked to do social distancing, and social distancing has some very specific qualities to it that can actually trigger even healed and resolved post-traumatic stress. So there's a physical distancing that we're being asked to do. We're asked not to touch and physically connect with each other. There's emotional distancing. Even though we have these wonderful things like GoToMeeting and Zoom, there's still an emotional distance that's created by the lack of being close to each other, and that can be very distressing for folks. We also are operating under a constant threat of infection and death. And that is one of the key elements of post-traumatic stress disorder, is experiencing that threat. So to the degree, different people feel it to different degrees, and it can be re-traumatizing. There's also the economic distress. People have lost jobs, are not working, and so that is causing additional distress. People are feeling not valuable. Those who aren't working, who don't have a way to contribute in the world, who haven't chosen a way to contribute, can feel like they're not very valuable anymore. And then just the danger of overwork, especially for those folks who are on the front line and are essential workers. Now, one of the things we know is that these kinds of things happening over an extended period of time can cause something called prolonged duress stress disorder. So it's a little bit different than post-traumatic stress disorder. Prolonged duress stress disorder, when people are under duress for an extended period of time, weeks to months to years, can qualify for prolonged duress. So we made a list of things that we thought it might be valuable for people to do during this time to help take care of yourselves and the people around you. And one of the first ones is a buddy check. Now, we all know how important a buddy check is, or I'm assuming that everyone on the line knows how important a buddy check is. And I just want to remind you to do that. What I have observed about myself is that I can get very self-focused. I can pull things in because I'm not supposed to be going anywhere. And then I get involved in doing things that are close to me, and I forget to reach out to the people I love and the people I care about. And doing a buddy check can make all the difference in the world as to whether or not somebody experiences prolonged stress or has difficulty and trauma during this time. Healing Warrior Hearts has also decided to do a series of Zoom meetings. We've partnered with Reboot Recovery, who created a very special Reboot Recovery Crisis Program of 5 weeks. And Diane is leading those Zoom meetings, so I'm going to turn this portion over to her so she can tell you about those sessions and what you would experience if you attended those sessions. Diane?
Well, good morning, everyone. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be on and share this and this community as well. So I looked into the Reboot videos and I immediately was attracted to them as they talk about the natural response to trauma. So that had me hooked from the beginning as an opportunity to help our community stay connected. And it's worked really well, so I appreciate the opportunity to share about this. So what it is a series of 5 different videos. They're about 15 minutes long, and then it also comes complete with a workbook that's got questions in it so that we can follow along and really dig into the information and apply it. And it also provides an opportunity for good discussion so that we can share our experience and support each other through it. So it talks about how at first we tend to deny the situation. Oh, that's in China, that's not over here. Then as it gets closer, we realize, oh gosh, it's here now. And now what are we gonna do? So we move from denial to crying, whether that's physical crying or complaining to friends or whatever form we take of that. And then we realize it's actually happening and we settle into considering what's next. And so that's the session that's the first session. And some of the questions that they ask at the end, I like to just go over on our video conference. And one of them that they talk about in the first session is how do you define trauma? And recognizing that this is trauma and prolonged in the sense that we don't know how long it will last, which adds to the stress. And then what was key for us in that first call was recognizing some of the ways that we numb out, run away from the reality of what's happening. So that provided for some good discussion. And to talk more about the Zoom calls that we're doing, it's important to recognize some important steps to set that up in case you would like to set one up for yourself, because these are free. You just scroll down past the donate button. If you'd like to donate, you're welcome to. Otherwise, scroll down and you'll find the videos and the workbook, and you can go through the videos one at a time. So I like to set the ground rules for the calls so that we realize that this is a safe place for discussion, free of judgment, and that we'll keep the contents of this meeting confidential so that everyone feels safe to share what's happening with them. And it often does take a little while for people to warm up, especially depending on how well they know the other people on the call. So allow for that time. And then there is a brief religious reference in each one. I think that's really important to help people reconnect maybe or strengthen their faith. Though it is a brief reference, it doesn't take over the whole conversation. And so again, we just ask that everyone respect the religious beliefs of everyone in the group and, you know, take that and translate as is fit for you. So that is a brief overview of session 1. And then session 2 talks about coping with the anxiety of the uncertainty. And the uncertainty is really the challenge there, because we can do anything if we know there's a time frame for that, and maybe not so well when we don't know how long that will last. And so then some of the questions for session 2 is to recognize a rate of anxiety at this time so that we're aware of how anxiety is affecting us, and then to recognize if we have a safe community that we can fall into right now for support. And so that's an important piece to recognize some of the support that is available for us. And that was a topic of our discussion. So I like to use these questions as a baseline. I read over the questions at the end of the video and ask if anybody has any feedback about the video or would like to respond to any of the questions, to start a discussion and an opportunity to share our experience. Otherwise, I point out that these questions are important for our personal consideration, whether we're comfortable sharing our responses or not. And that talks about the grief process, responsibility, and the value of being decisive to make a decision, for example, of what are we going to do at this time? The only thing we know we can control is our response to it. So if we go into it and respond to the panic, that's my timer, so I know I'm almost out of time, then we won't get much done and it'll affect us a lot worse, because as Patricia said, we go inward and focus on ourselves and how we're going to handle this instead of going out and asking for help. And then session 4 is the recovery process. And this was our last week process, and it talked about support and the different places that we can go for support. And certainly having a community like the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber or the Healing Warrior Hearts Starfish community, that is really helpful. And if we pay attention on Facebook for good stuff, we'll find a ton of support. And I know Patricia and a lot of you share a lot of it as well. So if we choose to limit our Facebook involvement, I think it's really important to remember to come back to the sources of positive support. And so we shared some things that were sources of support for us on Wednesday's call. We do our calls every Wednesday and Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time. So if y'all would like to join in on that, feel free to contact me and I'll put you right into that community and you can see how we do it and if you would like to continue with us. And then the last session is about healing, helping other people heal. And the right way to do that, not to bombard people with all kinds of advice and, oh, you're doing that all wrong, and throwing advice that they don't necessarily want. Often they just want somebody to understand how they're feeling and to know that you're there with them and you're not judging them. You're not going to leave them alone. That's the really important part. I have to admit, with the training that I've had, I was surprised seriously at how much I was able to learn and be reminded of in this series of videos. So I highly, highly recommend them. And then I tend to close the sessions with obviously any questions they may have and a reminder to do the tuning breath. And I don't know, Patricia, if you'd like to talk a little bit more about that. I recommend that so that people practice it so that it comes more natural when they need it. And then I invite them to our private Facebook group so that they have another safe place to connect in between meetings. So I'll turn that over to you, Patricia, if you'd like to elaborate on the tuning breath or close.
I don't think we have enough time to do the tuning breath, Diane, but we can do a video posted on Facebook.
Awesome.
So thank you very much. So we encourage everybody to consider participating in the Reboot videos. They're open, the Reboot group, rather, the Zoom meetings, they're open to anyone. There are a few other resources I want to very briefly mention. The VA has quite a number of apps available on their website, and they just published one recently, the COVID Coach app, to help people through this particular time. So if you haven't already heard of that, I encourage you, they're on the VA website. And by the way, if you go to healingwarriorhearts.org, click in the upper right-hand corner of the webpage, there's it'll download a list of all these resources for you. The R&R House here in Milwaukee, sponsored by Mental Health America. The Veterans R&R House is going to be opening up a warm line that should be happening by May 1st. So it's a place for people to talk with peer support specialists, but not a crisis line. There's also psycharmor.com. And we want you to know that Healing Warrior Hearts is going to be doing our June retreat, given that all the restrictions that for the size of group that we have will be lifted. We do have an August retreat for LGBT veterans and a September retreat for military sexual trauma. Also in the document that you can get on our website, there is a suggested daily care practice of several questions you can ask yourself on a daily basis to help you stay aware of the decisions that you're making and the way that you're living your life during this time, and links to all of the things that we've mentioned. So those are our resources, and we strongly encourage everyone to share the positive, because it makes a world of difference when people know that there are resources for them and people who care. Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, right on. I actually have a couple follow-up questions myself, and for those of you that are listening, if you have questions, please throw them in the chat bar on the right-hand side. You can click the little chat icon in the upper right-hand corner to throw questions out. I have put a series of links in the chat on the right-hand side to follow Healing Warrior Hearts on Facebook, to follow the Veterans Health Coalition on LinkedIn, and in addition, a Google document that has highlights from Healing Warrior Hearts' presentation today, as well as the resources that they referenced, and then their website. So please check out those links, follow where applicable and appropriate. And I just wanted to follow up with both of you, and either one of you can answer this. You know, we're spending so much time talking about people's physical health and physical well-being. Sometimes people aren't putting enough consideration into the mental toll that this is taking on people. You know, all businesses and all people are facing unique challenges, so everybody's you know, physical and mental health challenges are unique. So there's no one size fits all answer. But my question for you would be then, doing these buddy checks in your, you know, professional experience, what's the best way to do a legit buddy check? Is putting a Facebook status up that says I'm here for you if anybody needs me good enough, or should it be a phone call? Should it be a text, an email? Like, what's the best way to really truly provide somebody with the support that they need?
Well, a post on Facebook that says I'm here is a good thing in case somebody else wants to reach out. But the thing about doing buddy checks is that oftentimes people, when they are feeling down, low, not well, depressed, they won't reach out. So saying I'm here is nice, but that they're not going to reach out. So for me, the best thing is the telephone. We're so into chat and emails and stuff these days because it's quick, it's easy, we say it, and we don't actually interact right away. But the telephone is a really important way to do a buddy check if you're unable to go to somebody's house and knock on the door. I know we're supposed to be keeping 6 feet apart, but you can go out and sit on the front porch or go for a short walk with someone to be able to talk with them and see how they're doing. So that immediate physical interaction piece is really important in a buddy check. And to say, not I'm worried about you, I don't think you're okay, which presupposes that there's something wrong, but to say I'm thinking about you, I care about you, and I wanted to connect. And so it keeps the stigma away, because a lot of times people don't reach out because especially veterans, in my experience, because they think they're being weak and we're supposed to be strong. And so saying, I care about you, I thought maybe it might be nice to connect for a little while, calling and saying, could I come over and we could go for a short walk, sit on the front porch and share a cup of coffee, you know, whatever is appropriate to who that person is and where they live and so on. So it's buddy check means I reach out to say I care. And I want to know that you're doing all right, or if there's anything I can do to share or support you. So it doesn't come from the premise that they're wrong, weak, not okay.
Is there a different approach when you're doing a quote unquote buddy check on an employee? I mean, are there different? Obviously, you can't approach them in the same way you would like a longtime friend, but I know a lot of people
Right.
here are business owners and are still concerned and want to show their concern for the well-being of their employees. Is there a different approach, or is it the same thing?
It's pretty much the same thing. The language might be a little bit different. Everybody's going to use their own language. I don't think formulaic things are very valuable in the sense of say these exact words, but to say as your employer, I'm just checking in. Is there anything you need from me as your employer? Are things going okay for you? Do you need any assistance? So the employer is saying, I care, and I want to know that you're doing okay. But some employers might feel uncomfortable with the language about I care. That might feel a little bit too personal or intimate. So I'm just checking in, see how you're doing, seeing if you need anything from me at this time. And that's going to vary also if the person's working from home or if they've been laid off or are not working.
Right on. Very cool. Well, if we don't have any questions in the chat right now, I think you covered it all. That's a good list of resources there, and I would encourage anyone to click that chat. You'll be able to, again, see this video, and definitely hang around. We have another presentation here, but you'll be able to see this video on our website, wiveteranschamber.org, after the fact, to include the chat transcription, which is going to have all these links for you to click and to like and to follow. And if there are no further questions, just want to say thanks, Patricia and Diane, and thanks to Healing Warrior Hearts for all you do. And I would encourage everyone out there to please to follow and like and support Healing Warrior Hearts. Visit their website, see all the good things that they're doing in our community, and please take what they told you today to heart when you're providing support for your friends, for your family, and for your employees as well. And honestly, it goes up the chain as well. Did we have a question there, Benjamin? Is that, or you just
I did not have a question.
Oh, it's good to see your face though. Welcome.
Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Hi, Ben.
Hi.
Well, if I could make a very brief comment, I've been attending the COVID-19 support group, and I've seen great value in it. It's a good combination of veterans and non-veterans, which I find to be important right now too. So, and I wanted to say thank you to Patricia and Diane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. And yeah, I think that's a super good point. That speaking from a veteran perspective, I'm repping the Air Force today. It's good. You can't exist in a bubble, and you can't get support in a bubble. And the best businesses have a diverse range of employees. The best organizations have a diverse range of people working together. Heck, the military is valuable, is powerful because of its diversity. It derives its strength from its diversity. And there's no change to that when you get into the civilian world. So if you're a veteran, yes, hang out with your veteran pals, but diversify. And hang out with non-veterans too. That's a really good point. The other thing I would encourage you to keep in mind for those of you that are employees, or if you're an employer or a hiring person that still has people above you in the chain in a corporate area, your support can go up the chain as well, and your buddy checks can go up the chain as well. So if you see a manager or an employer or a CEO, heck, it doesn't matter, and you see that they're struggling with something, because again, everybody's facing unique challenges right now, I would encourage you to not be shy about saying, hey, do you need something? Can I help you? Are you okay? That it's really important that we look out for each other, whether a person is higher ranking than you on the chain or the ladder or lower. It doesn't matter. We're all people. Yes, Patricia.
Before we go, I want to do a real brief shout out about the Veterans Mental Health Summit on October 2nd.
Please.
Information to it on the Veterans Chamber calendar, on the Veterans Health Coalition webpage. It's about dealing with distress and preventing suicide by providing wellness. And the Veterans Chamber will be there, Healing for Your Hearts will be there, the VA will be there. So please take a moment to check that out. Registration is open, and it's October 2nd. Thank you.
Patricia, go ahead, and if you have a web link to the registration, why don't you throw it in the chat bar, give it to me, and I'll put it in the chat bar just so we can make sure everybody sees it, because that's a great event that people are definitely going to want to be a part of.
Will do.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, we will go ahead and turn things over to our next guest, Chris Kolenda, who's going to be talking about maintaining high-performing teams. That's whether you're a teammate or a team leader or a team member, high-performing teams and keeping your morale and productivity operating at a high level during and after what we're all going through right now. Chris, I think you're muted here. Let me unmute you. I think you can unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
I'm good to go.
All right,
yeah.
Chris, take
Adam.
it away.
All right, thanks, Adam. Special shout out to you and Kit for this opportunity to be with this great organization. I love being a member of the Veterans Chamber of Commerce and appreciate everybody who is a veteran and those who have supported veterans. I know how much that meant to me in my 4 years in Afghanistan, and so I appreciate you. And thanks, Patricia and Diane, for a great presentation. I'm going to try to share my screen, and let's get rocking. So as Adam mentioned, let me try to do this here. It's my first time with the system, so I'm just getting used to it. Okay, so as Adam mentioned, we're going to talk about maintaining high performance with your team through a long haul crisis. And this is one of those long haul crises. And what we've created is what we call this, the RAMP, the major crisis life cycle. We looked at a bunch of crises from, the bubonic plague, the Spanish flu, 9/11, financial crisis, et cetera. And all of these long haul major crises have a predictable pattern. There's a react phase where we are now, massive government interventions, et cetera, big policy swings. And then there's an adjust phase. As people get better data, they're able to make better decisions and make some fine tuning adjustments. That leads us into a post-crisis new normal. And then eventually we're able to prosper. So we're going to talk about how you, through this sort of arc, how do you maintain high performance during the crisis? I'm going to talk about R2C2, which I'll get into in just a second. Okay, so here is goals and agenda. Can everybody see that? Adam, am I projecting properly?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, awesome. So R2C2 stands for relationships, rhythm, communications, and context. And that's what we're going to focus on for today. So before we get into that, we're going to let everybody exercise their chat fingers and the chat function. I'm going to show a set of pictures right after this slide. And please just write down in the chat box what picture best describes what you are going through right now. So there's your pictures. In the chat room, just write down, hey, this picture best describes, just write out what picture best describes what you're going through right now and maybe what it means to you. So I'll just pause for about 30 seconds and let folks get after that. And Adam, I'm going to need your help on this because I can't see the chat room while I'm sharing my screen. So as you see them coming.
So we have one saying the watchful eye. Kit says the gears, trying to figure out how it all works.
Right.
Ben says the boot. I'm trying to decide which one mine is here. I'm writing the sideways alarm clock because time is a flat circle. Every day is Groundhog Day right now. Diane says the checklist. Patricia says the heart.
Very awesome.
She says the importance of sending out love as it keeps her love and positive focus. That's cool.
And I'm sure they'll keep coming in. That's awesome. So thanks for that, Adam. So one of the things in a long haul crisis is what we call the pothole principle. So if you're riding a bike down the road and you see a pothole, if you stare at the pothole, then you know that you're going to run right into it and face plant. And that's kind of what we call leading in crisis, is like staring at the pothole. So when you lead in the crisis, you exhibit those sorts of behaviors. And I remember early in my career, we were in a crisis and I believed that I was indispensable. And so I was up for 96 hours straight. And probably at some point during that 96 hours, I resembled a babbling idiot. And then after things were finished, I slept for 18 hours continuous. And as I woke up, I recognized that not only was I not effective, probably for the last 48 hours or so of that crisis, but in the 18 hours afterwards, I was not there for people who needed me. And that was a huge lesson for me. And so when I recognized the difference between leading in the crisis and the importance of leading through the crisis. It's like if you are coming up on a pothole, you don't stare at the pothole, you look where you want to go, and that'll bring you safely around the pothole and you will drive on to your objective. So leading through the crisis has the behaviors that we're talking about on the left. So trusting relationships, a sustainable rhythm for you and your team, a regular cadence of communication, a safe and healthy culture, and the ability to pivot in these times of uncertainty. So I took all those lessons to heart, leading a group of 800 paratroopers in Afghanistan for a 15-month deployment in one of the most violent areas of the country. We were particularly proud of a few things from that. First was what our paratroopers achieved, what many regard as the biggest and most sustainable success in the 19-year history of that conflict now. And second, we had no post-deployment suicide ideation, or major post-traumatic stress reaction. So everybody's always got a little bit, some form of post-traumatic stress after an event like that, but nothing that manifests itself into self-destructive behavior. And we were really, really proud of that. And some of those things on the left were key to that. And so I'll get into that now. So, of course, as Patricia and Diane mentioned, we're trying to sustain performance when our mental model and what we've experienced our entire professional life is this, the office on the left, where we're there with everybody, but now our office, our places of work look like that. And we are, most of us, working from home. And so how do we sustain high performance in a situation where we don't see everybody every day? And people are working from home, people have kids that are no longer in school. So at the same time as you're trying to do work, you've got kids at home and they've got needs. And so we're constantly being torn with these different demands in this hugely new situation. And so what are some things that we can do to sustain high performance? We can't, there's no way to sustain peak performance throughout a period of long duration stress. But what we can, because of invariably going to crash like I did after 96 hours of staying awake, but what we can do is sustain high performance by doing some smart things. So that's what we call the R2C2, relationships, rhythm, communication, and context. And so let's drill down into each one. So Patricia and Diane talked about, made some great points about relationships. Look, the battle buddy, your COVID comrade, your pandemic partner, I mean, whomever, all of the, call it what you will, all of these, having somebody that you can constantly go to, be it a spouse, be it a coworker, be a friend, to just talk and share experiences is hugely important, and we've all felt that. There was a great question earlier about well, what happens if you're a leader and you've got employees? How do you do these? Weekly check-ins are really important. There's a way to do this that's not sort of micromanaging. What are you doing all day? And so we've actually created a weekly check-in worksheet. I mean, if you're a supervisor, you should be able to have a 30-minute one-on-one with each of your direct reports every week. If you don't have the time to do that, it means that your span of control is too large. And during these weekly one-on-ones, and I'll send everybody who's interested this worksheet. But the first question we encourage people to ask is the safety and sanity check, and open-ended questions. How well are you doing? What do you have going on today? What are your kids doing to keep themselves entertained and happy? I mean, those sort of open-ended questions can be very good because they get people to talk beyond the sort of yes or no. And then we get into things like, hey, what are your priorities for this week at work? And what strengths are you using this week? And we found, and numerous studies of performance have found that people who are using their natural strengths every day are 2 to 3 times more productive and more effective than people who are not using their natural strengths. So the more that we can align people's work with their strengths, the more engaged and productive they're going to be. I mean, Gallup has got the great poll that says 67% of American employees report being unengaged at work. So if that's the case when we have like open office plans and we can see everybody, imagine what happens to that rate of engagement when you've got a remote workplace. So the best way to deal with that is by aligning work to people's natural strengths. And we've got some resources that can help you do that. And then finally, inclusivity. Bring more and more people into the decision-making process. There's some decisions where you've already got buy-in from the organization. They need to happen immediately. And so as leaders, you just got to make those decisions. But there are plenty of cases where the decision's not immediate. If you're doing scenario planning for what the post-crisis new normal might look like, that's a great opportunity to bring in a lot of people on different teams and get them to help you think through what's next. Some things to avoid on relationships, certainly isolation. If you have somebody that clearly, I mean, there are people who, a lot of people who live alone, they're not married, they don't have spouses, they don't have significant others. So understanding who those folks are and encouraging them to avoid isolation, really important. And then finger pointing is an absolute no-go. There's always going to be things that go wrong during a long haul crisis. And if you're a first responder, you're in healthcare, you're in others, those things that may go wrong can affect people's lives and livelihood. So avoid blame, avoid the finger pointing, and when things don't go right, just use a genuine curiosity to find out, hey, what happened? Why did it happen? And what are the measures that we can put in place to make things go better next time? Okay, second R is rhythm. Rhythm and balance. So a personal rhythm and balance and a team rhythm and balance are absolutely essential. They become our anchor points to sustaining high performance over the long run. It's like having a routine. And when you have a routine, you've got that anchor. And so it allows you to sustain this sort of battle rhythm and this high performance because you've got those points you can always go back to. You've got that predictability, and there's great power in predictability. So one of the things that we encourage folks to do is weekly planning. So as an individual, set out your weekly priorities. Do it maybe on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening, and have the balance. MBSFC stands for your mind, body, spirit, family, community. So what are my priorities this week? For my mind, how am I going to improve myself and my skills? My body, what am I going to do physically, and allocate time against for all of these things. Spiritually, whether it's formal religion or not. My relationships with family and friends, what am I going to, allocating time for these things. My community, how am I going to support my community? Do that each week, set those priorities and don't compromise them. And in that way, you make sure that what are things that are most important to you and your team, you take care of first. You put first things first. And then the other sort of dramas and crises and demands that folks have, you'll be able to take care of around those times that you have blocked for your priorities. For the team, having a daily and a weekly and a monthly and a quarterly sort of rhythm becomes very important. So you give your team that predictability. They know that at this time every day we're going to have a huddle. Each week we're going to have a bigger sort of meeting where we talk about the way forward, et cetera. We have a certain monthly activities, and these become key to maintaining this anchor point and the productive power of predictability. Okay, and what do we want to avoid? Well, we certainly want to avoid burnout, like I was after my 96 hours staying awake, and also avoiding hyperactivity. So creating hyperactivity and chaos in our organizations can be hugely damaging, and certainly the more we have these organizational rhythms and this predictability to our personal life as well as our business, we're going to be able to avoid the hyperactivity that winds up burning people out. Okay, so communications is our first C. So clarity, cadence, and standards. So think clarity, cadence, and standards. There's a Zoom etiquette, there's a conference etiquette, and these two are showing it, which is great. Keep the camera at eye level and look people in the eye. Very key for just improving communications. It's just like when you're communicating face to face. If somebody's looking the other way or multitasking or whatever, you're not getting that quality communication. And so we've got to do the same thing on video conferencing. In terms of the cadence of meetings, here are 5 great things to address every meeting. Hey, what's the good news? What's the good news from today from everybody? What's the current situation of our business? What looking ahead, maybe next week, next month, what do we see? What are we learning as we go through this? And hey, what are our action steps that we need people to get after that week? And this just sort of basic meeting format will help your team be more productive and engaged. Avoid bad form on conference calls. So one is looking down at somebody. You wouldn't tolerate this in a face-to-face meeting, somebody looking down on you. Just have people do the right thing on their conferencing. This is one of my personal favorites. The person who's is looking the other way. You see this all the time. Their camera is in a different place than where they're looking. It's like, come on, man. Just look at the camera. It's common courtesy. You wouldn't talk to somebody looking the other way in person. Don't do it online. And then finally, eliminate distractions. So that's my wife, Nicole, in the background. So have a background that is not distracting and where you are not going to have people walking back and forth. Avoid imprecise terms. One of the imprecise terms that we use today that I think is hugely problematic, and Patricia and Diane pointed out, is social distancing. Oh my goodness, what a horribly toxic term. We actually don't want people to socially distance. We want people to socially strengthen. So we want physical distancing, but not social distancing, because physical distancing, 6 feet apart, is the activity that we want. Social strengthening, whether it's online or whether it's different ways to do that in person while we're still staying physically distant, is really important. So imprecise terms can actually create behaviors and outcomes that you don't intend. In your communications, avoid speculation, thinking out loud, because these sorts of things create more anxiety for your team. So if you want to think through scenarios, if you want to be thinking out loud, get a coach or talk with your spouse, but don't speculate in front of your employees, because I mean, just the way neuroscience works, when people speculate and that speculation is about fears, people automatically gravitate towards that. When the CDC director 2 days ago said the second wave of coronavirus could be much worse than the first, everybody latched onto that as, oh my goodness, this is going to be even worse going forward. So people will tend to gravitate towards highly visible negative things. And so just avoid those kind of terms. Speak clearly, speak precisely. If you don't know something, when your employee asks, just say, hey, I don't know, but give me 24 hours or 6 hours or whatever, and I'll have an answer to you. Finally, is providing people context is huge. So where we are today, where are we today in our business? What progress have we made since the start of coronavirus? What changes have we made, and how well are those changes working? And then, hey, what's the way forward? As we look forward to the new normal, what might that new normal look like, and how are we preparing for it? So providing context gives people confidence that you know what you're doing. You may not have all the answers, you can't crystal ball the future, but because you are providing situation, progress, and way forward, or at least here are some scenarios and here's how we're thinking through them, it gives people the confidence that your business is going to be around in the future and that they can rely and have faith on you. The things to avoid: Groundhog Day. Oh my goodness. Groundhog Day, just suggests that, hey, we're complacent, we're not learning. And so every day is just a repeat of the last. And that was always a signal to me, whether in business or during deployments. When somebody said Groundhog Day, that meant to me that, hey, we're not doing enough to have to promote learning, because people believe that there's things are just repetitive, and they're not getting better every day. So that we always watched out for that kind of signal, and then made adjustments. Rumor mongering, of course, making it up as you go, impulsiveness, all of these things create greater anxiety that is going to undermine the faith and confidence in your team, and is also going to amplify people's stress. Okay, so those are our R2C2 of high performance: rhythm, or relationships, rhythm, communications, and context. Okay, so one more time into the chat. So which picture best describes your top takeaway from today? So here are the pictures again. Which picture best describes your top takeaway from today? And Adam, I'm going to need your help again. So go ahead and type in the chat which one describes your top takeaway from today.
Let's see. I will relay them to you as they come in.
Awesome.
Nothing yet. I'm still trying to decide which one mine is. I feel like I was being personally called out because I am guilty of all of those video chat things that you mentioned earlier. I actually just did the one this morning looking at another screen while everyone's looking at the side of my face. Whoops.
Oh, no.
All right, so I learned something. Okay, so here are the answers. One says clock for the remind me of to remind me of a routine. Puzzle. You gave us many pieces of the puzzle. Blue and yellow sign, moving forward and keeping our E's engaged. Gears of progress. Candle. Learned a lot. It was enlightening. And that's it.
All right, awesome. And keep them coming in if you wish.
Mm-hmm.
So we've developed a number of resources to help you lead through the crisis and bring your team to the other side. So one, on our website, we've got a crisis life cycle page to our web page. So you can go there, bunch of free resources, all of our webinars, articles, etc., are all right there and free for you to access. So that's our website, https strategicleadersacademy.com. And also a couple more resources for you. So I mentioned our weekly check-in worksheet. So just give me your email address or send me a note, chris@strategicleadersacademy.com. I'll send you our weekly check-in worksheet that you can, it's a fillable PDF. You can use it right away. I'll also send you our ebook, Build a Winning Team. So it talks about our leader archetypes and ways that we can understand our own and other people's natural strengths so we can align work to their natural strengths. And then on the far right is our infographic, one of our latest free resources that talks about our 16 habits of great leadership, culture, and strategy. So we'll send all of those to you if you email me at chris@strategicleadersacademy.com. And my final sort of thought leaving you, and I'll open it up for questions, is, as leaders, what are we doing to make sure that our most vulnerable employees feel safe enough to bring their best and most authentic selves to work each day? Our culture is really defined, and the strength of our culture is really defined by the extent to which our most vulnerable employees, and maybe the newest, they may be, in a certain part of the pay scale, they may look differently, they may have different sexual orientation, etc. Do our most vulnerable employees feel safe to bring their best and most authentic selves to work each day? So I'll pause, Adam, for any questions, but I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of great information there, and I would encourage all of you to follow up with Chris. And if you have any questions, throw them in on the side, and I will relay those out, and we'll have Chris address those. But as we're nearing the end of the presentation, I just want to remind you, please scroll up, check out the links to include our fundraiser, our relief fund for veterans serving nonprofits, Wisconsin-based veterans serving nonprofits. That's the Lift for the 22 and Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce COVID United Relief Fund. We've so far hit our goals, so please, if you want to throw some money and pile on all the good that we're going to be able to do there, please do so, and every little bit counts. Also next week we have a Twitter masterclass coming up, which you're definitely going to want to check out. And then in addition, the morning formation the following week, where we'll be visited by 3 CEOs. They're going to share the secrets of communicating and marketing and sales business development in a post-COVID-19 world. So check out all those links, to include all the follow links for our friends here that we met today. I don't see any questions right now. If there are any follow-up questions on anything from the presentation today, if you need to reference the recording, it will be on wiveteranschamber.org probably by the end of the day. But please feel free to reach out, and I'll make sure to forward any additional questions that you have. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. Thank you to Patricia, Diane, and Chris from Healing Warrior Hearts. Patricia and Diane, and Chris from what's the name of your business, Chris? It's Strategic Help.
Strategic Leaders Academy, and I've put my email address in the chat. So
I see that. Yep.
Just do that, and boom.
Yeah. Strategic Leaders Academy. I wanted to make sure I got it right. Appreciate you and all your great information today, everybody. And takeaways are, let's keep things positive, everybody, for ourselves, for our families, for our employees, for our employers, and everybody in between. So as we've reached the end here, we're right on time. Amazing, you guys are great. Again, my name's Adam from the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. We'll see you here at the same link next week, Friday, 9:30 a.m. And appreciate your time today, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.